Good morning, Entregrowth Community. I am so grateful to be here with you this morning. Happy New Year, and let's jump into it and get started. First and foremost, I wanted to point out the shirt that I'm wearing. It's a picture of a buffalo, and it says the words, "Charge the storm" on it. And if you're not familiar with what buffalo actually do, they're completely different than most other animals when it comes to danger. When it comes to something that's approaching them, instead of running away from it, they choose to run toward it. Storms are the perfect example of this, and there's a really famous painting that gives the example here of what buffalo do. You see the snow is coming at the side, means the wind is facing toward where the buffalo is walking. And buffalo, instead of running away from it, they choose to go straight toward it. Now, why do they do that? They do it because they know that if they go into the storm, they're going to be on the other side of it faster than anything that was running away from it. You see, if you choose to run away from a storm, that means that the elements are going to be traveling with you, because as you move away from it, the storm continues to approach, which actually means you're in it even longer than the people who chose not to, than the people who chose to go directly through it. So I give you this example today because it's the exact same thing in business. It's the exact same thing in many of what we're going to be facing in 2023 with the housing market. Now, why do we know this? Well, on January 1st, it was the biggest expired day of the year. And many of us were projecting that we would probably see something like 1,500 expireds. We were projecting 1,200 expireds for the entire Beaches MLS on that one day. We actually ended up seeing 1,555 expired listings on that one day alone. Now, why do listings expire? Well, most of the time it's price, right? Sometimes it's condition, but overwhelmingly, most of the time it is price. Well, what actually happened to lead to that? Well, sellers had an expectation here, right? Buyers have been watching the news and seeing the national stories and everything like that, and they have an expectation here. So they want it to be lower, sellers want it to be higher. And those two things haven't leveled out yet to create the equilibrium, which what caused more listings to expire, because those sellers were still up here and the buyers are thinking, hey, you know what? I hear on the news I should be getting a discount. Prices are coming down. And while that is the case, yes, prices are coming down a little bit here in South Florida, but they haven't met up with what buyers are thinking is a discount and what sellers are willing to actually discount their homes, which led to 1,555 of those listings going expired. Now, that's a huge opportunity. That is a huge opportunity. Good morning, Sharon. That's a huge opportunity because those are already people who have raised their hand and said, hey, I'm ready to sell my home. Now, for a select few of those people, they are what's in the I wanted to test the market group of people, meaning they wanted to put their house on the market to see what they could potentially get for it. Well, while that sounds good, you and I, being in the real estate business, know that the last 3 months was not the time to test the market. The time to test the market was in March and April of last year, where we saw things going 20, 40, 50, $150,000 over list. Now, was that actually realistic for it to happen? Absolutely not. But at that point in time, we had the law of supply and demand in our favor. The law of supply and demand states that if there is a high demand, people are willing to pay as much as they can possibly pay in order to get it, until they reach a point of, gosh, you know what? That's no longer a good deal for me. You know, my family and I, we were personal examples of that. When we purchased our home here in Coral Springs, there were multiple people who were interested in that one, and we went well above what the list price was. And thankfully, it was listed by an agent in one of our offices, and I had a relationship with that person. So y'all, relationships do matter. And they said, you know what, I know that if I choose his offer, it's going to go much more smoother because I don't know any of these other people. That's why relationships matter. Now, when I come back to the 1,555 expired listings that came up, y'all, let's do the math on that really quick. Let's just say that 60% of those people were people who were not testing the market and really do need to sell their home. 1,555 times 60%, that's 933 of them who still need to sell their home. Now, there were a lot of people out there picking up the phone on the first day of the year, January 1st, doing what I would like to call the hangover call, because they've just recovered from the night before and are making the phone calls in that morning. Did some of those people relist? Absolutely. Some of those people probably relisted with the last real estate agent, who, by the way, what are they going to do differently in order to get it sold this time if they couldn't get it sold last time? Those are objection handlers and questions that you should be asking when you are calling expireds. If you want to have a truly great conversion rate with the expired opportunity that's out there right now, here's what I want to challenge you to do. And I've mentioned it before. Don't pick up the phone and call them. Go and knock on the door. Look for those listings in the MLS that did expire, and look for the ones that are occupied and not vacant, and go and knock on the door. Knock on the door and just have a conversation with them, because that is going to add more value to them than the person who called them at 7 o'clock this morning. Because that is going to give you a higher conversion rate. I truly believe, based upon the math that I've done and the conversion rate that I hear in multiple places throughout our country, if you door knocked 5 expireds every single day, 5 every single day, that'd be 25 a week. You should be able to pick up 1 listing a week. 1 listing a week. Now, in the market that we're currently going into with an expired listing, I'm going to say that you should be prepared. This is not the reality of the situation. I want to give you a worst case scenario. Let's just say that if you pick up 3 listings, 1 of them will sell. Now, if you price it right and have realistic conversations with them about what the market is actually doing based upon data, and you have access to the data because you have access to kwwaxman.com/stats that will help you with all of that existing data, then you're going to be able to have the conversation with them about what the market is actually doing and what they should actually be pricing their home for. Not just based upon what they feel. Unfortunately, the last agent who put them in the situation where they had an expired listing allowed them to price their home based upon how they feel. Ladies and gentlemen, feelings do not get homes sold on the seller side of things. Feelings do get homes sold on the buyer side of things, because then when they walk in the door and they think, oh my gosh, this is perfect. I can see exactly where my kid's bedroom will be. I can see them playing in the backyard. That's a feelings-based mentality. Feelings are on the buyer side. Logic is on the seller side. This is where you have 2 different dichotomies of conversation you have to be prepared to have with people in order to move them forward. So the reason I wear this right here today, the Charge the Storm t-shirt, is because I want you to do exactly that. If you want things you've never had in your life before, you're going to have to do things you've never done in your life before. The greatest opportunity that you have standing in front of you today is expired listings and expired opportunities. Now, when I say expired opportunities, I don't want you to just go back and focus on those people who expired on January 1st. Because guess what? I've mentioned it before, and I'm going to mention it again until I'm probably blue in the face. Those people who expired in October, November, and December, they were those people who were out there saying, I want to wait until after the holidays. I want to wait until after the holidays are over so that I don't have to worry about the stresses of selling my house during a time where I want to be with my family. Well, guess what? Lucky for you, our industry as a whole is not very good at follow-up or remembering to follow up. Your competitors are only focused on those January 1st people. I want you to also focus on the October, November, and December people, because those people are now in a position where they're ready to sell. The other benefit to them, guess what? Their days in the MLS will have recycled and it's going to look like a brand new listing for them, because it's not going to be a current days on market situation because they just came off and expired. Their counter will be completely reset for those other people because it's going to look like a brand new listing because it's been 60 or 90 days past when they originally expired. So the challenge that I would give you today is this. Number one, get really good at your for sale by owner and your expired conversations, mostly the expired conversations, because when markets do change the way that they have, for sale by owners actually go down because they need our help more than they ever have before. Because remember, the market that we were just in, literally my dog Pepper could have put a sign in the yard and she could have sold it with no experience whatsoever. That was the heyday for sale by owners. Today is not the heyday for sale by owners. Today is the time where they really have to think about it and decide, do I need the local expert to walk me through this? Because they have access to data, they have access to knowledge, and they have a skill set that they do every day that I have not mastered. Now, you can go and download all of these conversations on scotttolar.com/shift. There's an entire script book on there that you can download that has all scripts for everything, but it also has scripts specifically for expireds. And I want you to go and master those scripts right now. More importantly, though, remember, it's not just a script, it's a conversation. It's a relationship building opportunity. And even if you walked to the door and said, hey, Shirley, I see that your home didn't sell. Why do you think that was? What do you think your agent could have done differently? If they did that, do you think you would have had a different result? Did your agent ask you any questions like this by any chance? Did they ask you about what they thought was going on, about what they believed you thought was going on with their listing? Did your agent have you on a search for the active homes on the market that were actually comparables for you so that you could see what buyers are competing against with your listing every single day? Oh, they didn't? See, that's what sets me apart. That's what I do differently to get homes sold. I keep you as an active part of the conversation always so that you're never in the dark. A lack of information is the scariest thing about the biggest financial decision you're going to make. The financial decision to sell your home or the financial decision to buy a home. Information is so vitally important. So those two challenges. Number one, go and door knock 5 expired listings every single day. If you need access to expired listings, we can help you get that information. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Challenge number 2, this year, at minimum, build your database to 201 people where you have their first name, their last name, their email address, their phone number, and their physical address. Those 5 things. I'm going to say it one more time. First name, last name, email address, phone number, and physical address. Why are those 5 pieces of information important? Number 1, you have to know who they are. First name, last name. Number 2, you have to know how to communicate with them. Email or phone. Phone, by the way, you can pick up the phone and call, or you can text. Most people don't have landlines anymore. And if they do, that's okay. You're probably going to have them sign a physical contract and not use .loop anyways, or DocuSign. And then number 5, y'all, the most important piece of information you can have, a physical address. For heaven's sakes, we sell real estate. Everyone is connected to a physical location. One of the greatest benefits that we have is we are one of the three things in Maslow's hierarchy of needs: food, shelter, security. Shelter is one of those things that everyone has to have. And because there is shelter involved, there's a physical address involved. You can't help somebody know what's going on in their real estate market if you don't know where they live. All right, so what are your takeaways, thoughts, comments, questions, concerns from our conversation today? Yes, Shirley.
Actually, this ties in to the pivot call this morning on page 94, connecting, and you touched on that. It's not just about a transaction, it's connecting with people. And then I pulled up my notes from our team meeting 12/21, where you challenged us to go and door knock 5 expireds every day.
Yeah.
So my plan is to not only call, but then to show up at the door. That's already will set me apart from other agents.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Shirley. All right, who else? Scott, Mr. Bagoon.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm great. Glad you're on.
There is thanks. There is it's amazing when you isolate a challenge, right, in the shifting market, and then you just start thinking about where the opportunity is and how big the opportunity actually is when you focus on solutions rather than woe is me challenges and problems.
Yeah. Yeah. If we focus on the woe is me challenges and problems, we will stay in that and not actually move forward. Remember, it's about progress, not perfection. And the greatest challenge that so many people face is they want it to be perfect before they take action. Well, if we go and look at page 188 of the MREA, I believe it's the story of the clay pots. The story of the clay pots talks about how there were two classes. One class was given the task of making one perfect pot. The other class was given the challenge of making as many pots as they possibly could. Which one ended up having the perfect pot? Not the class who was given the challenge to make one perfect pot. The class that came up with the greatest, the highest quality one was actually the class who had to make as many as they possibly could, because they didn't focus on theory or ideas of what the design could look like. They adjusted the design as they continued to make the next pot. And that is exactly why you have to move forward when you have an idea. I forget who it was, but I was reading a book one time, and the lady said, you know, the analysis paralysis overcomes so many people. And one of the greatest things that you can do is when you have an idea or you decide to do something, count backwards from 5 and start taking action in that 5 seconds toward what it is that you desire to do. Because then you haven't given yourself an excuse to talk yourself out of it. All right, thank you, Scott. Anyone else? All right, well, I appreciate y'all joining me today. And remember, don't be the cows that are out there running away from the storm or grazing away from the storm, because those cows are going to be stuck in that storm much longer. Be the buffalo who sees that storm coming over the mountains, or here in South Florida, over the trees, and run into the storm as fast as you can, because the faster you run into that storm, the faster you choose to adapt, the greater the results are going to be for you, and the better the outcome is going to be for you, because you'll have gotten past it while everyone else is still struggling through it. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being with me. And as I'll remind you every single time, everything you want in your life is outside of your comfort zone. If you're not willing to get a little bit uncomfortable, just a little bit uncomfortable today, you're not going to have the things that you've always wanted in your life. I appreciate you, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone.